Originally from Mesopotamia, the olive is cultivated all over the Mediterranean basin. The olive tree is a symbol of wisdom, peace and fecundity and is found in the Drôme to the south of Nyon and in the Baronies, which is the northern extremity of its culture. In the Baronies there are around 4,000 lots and about 260,000 trees. Today the ground they grow on is between 300 and 600 meters. In spite of its reputation that the olive tree is immortal, it is in fact fragile. It fears the frost and its flowers the rain. Nowadays the olive tree competes with the vine and the apricot grove as the most profitable culture. The little village of La Roche-sur-le-Buis in the Menon Valley steadies its houses on a rocky spur. All around on steep slopes exposed to the sun, the olive tree is omnipresent, with the Tonche one of the varieties of olives. Here the olive harvest begins on the Feast of St. Catherine on the 25th of November and finishes at the end of January. The olives are picked by hand and let fall into a basket attached to a shoulder strap. There are two other ways of picking. The fruit is made to fall by shaking the branches by hand or with a vibrator. In both cases, large nets are spread under the trees to catch the olives. The use of long poles is outlawed lest it marks the olives, which are destined for making AOC oil. One man harvests at least 70 to 80 kilos per day. The Tonche is a black olive with a crumpled skin. With that we make AOC nuance in two ways. The big ones are kept for eating, and we make the oil with the little ones. The nuance oil is made with la Tonche. It's a very precise oil, that's to say it's very fine oil, very sweet and very subtle, and only comes from this region. After that we conserve them. That's to say we put them in barrels of salted water for 4 months. After that you can keep them as long as you want. It's delicious. It's delicious, I didn't want to say that. It's delicious and what you call a natural olive. Those olives there, once they're in the brine at the end of 4 months, they're taken out when you need them, and you season them with herbe de Provence, garlic, pepper, and anything you want. And from that moment, you have aromatic olives. Once they are picked, the olives are taken to the mill within 4 days of their picking. This is an obligation if you want to get the extra virgin oil label, whose acidity must not be more than 1%. After 4 days, the olives risk fermenting and increasing the risk of acidity in the oil. At Moulins-sur-Ouvèze, in the Chauvet mill, they still make oil in the artisan way. The old real tennis court of the Chateau Moulin, dating from the 13th century, serves for the cold press room. Cold pressing gives a mixture of oil and water, which are stored in vats called hopes. Once in the mill, the first stage is to grind the olives under the wheels. You have to allow a little under half an hour of milling so that the pulp and the nuts are sufficiently crushed before we put the mixture into the drum, where it stirs continuously whilst it waits to be put on the mats for squeezing the oil. Why is it stirred continuously? So that it stays well mixed while it waits for the trolley to take it on the mats to the press. Qui à mesure qu'on les garnit sont empilés sur ce qu'on appelle le chariot, c'est le socle de la presse. We start with a large metal disc at the bottom to get things even. Quelque chose d'uniforme. Then 4 mats laden with olive paste, then another metal disc, and so on until there are at least 100 mats, which represents about 300 kilos of olives, and then we press them here. Aux alentours de 300 kilos d'olives chaque fois qu'on va presser ici. The Roman bridge, a masterpiece of 14th century architecture, spans the two banks of the Egue River. On the other side lies Nyons, capital of the olive, and offers two oil mills from the 18th and 19th centuries.
Et oui, c'est l'huile d'olive qui conserve.
Olive oil is very good for the health, monsieur. It's a
C'est
medicine.
très bon pour la santé, monsieur.
Oui.
C'est un médicament.
You recommend a glass every morning?
Alors, un petit verre d'huile d'olive, non pas un verre.
Well, a little glass of oil, not a big glass.
Une cuillère à soupe.
One mustn't exaggerate.
Le matin, à jeun.
A spoon of olive oil in the early morning. It's very good for the intestines and the bladder.
Voilà.
C'est bon.
The scrotinerie of Nyons has survived the misfortunes of the olive workers. Today, Alain Fert uses the machines invented by his great-grandfather for making carpets. Here's a traditional scrotin. One puts the olives in this pocket and they are crushed in the press and the oil passes through it.
L'huile et l'eau passaient à travers.
It's made mechanically because my great-grandfather had the idea and invented the first machine to weave it.
Lui a eu l'idée.
He looked for all kinds of material which would be more solid. He tried hemp, he tried aloe fibers and coconut fibers. In fact, he proved that the coconut was the most interesting because the fiber was the most resistant mechanically and which didn't rot.
Plus intéressant, vu que c'est une fibre qui est résistante mécaniquement et qui est imputrescible, qui ne pourrit pas donc.
My great-grandfather had a big success at the beginning. When things were going well, he was selling all through the south of France and also in Algeria and Tunisia. My grandfather continued business until 1956, when there was a disaster in the region. There was a great frost. It froze very suddenly and very hard and brought about the destruction of the olive trees. For 6 years there was not one olive harvest all through the south of France.
Il n'y a pas eu une seule olive récoltée. Et ça dans tout le sud de la France.
With the olive groves destroyed, it goes without saying that the demand for scrotin was nil and the olive mills closed. So he had to have an idea very quickly.
Là, il a fallu très vite trouver une idée et il avait remarqué que les
He noticed that people used old scrotins as doormats, and so he said, "We're going to make doormats."